It's official. A vote for the Liberal Party of Canada is a vote for the Chinese Communist Party. While mass hysteria consumes the country over the fear that Donald Trump might turn Canada into the 51st state, we are quietly being turned into the 24th province of China. The latest proof? Liberal MP Paul Chiang openly encouraged Canadians to assist in the capture of a Conservative candidate on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party, referring to Joe Tay, an exiled Hong Kong pro-democracy activist and current Conservative candidate. Chiang was quoted in Ming Pao saying, "If you can take him to the Chinese Consulate General in Toronto, you can get the $1 million reward." That reward was issued by Hong Kong authorities in December 2023 under China's draconian national security law, which criminalizes political dissent around the world. In other words, a sitting member of parliament encouraged Canadian citizens to hand over a political opponent to a hostile foreign regime offering money for his capture. So how did Mark Carney, our newly installed self-proclaimed elitist and globalist prime minister, respond? With weakness, of course. When pressed by Global News' Kenzie Gray, Carney called the comments deeply offensive and a terrible lapse of judgment before praising Chiang's 28 years of policing and confirming that he would remain a candidate. Carney even noted that Chiang had apologized directly to Joe Tay in the community. This comes from the same man who once said,
"The momentum behind this agenda is now tremendous, and it'll be important that China is center stage to shape this new global, sustainable financial system."
And in another speech claimed,
"One of the many strengths of China is their perspective, the medium long-term perspective. This is an ambitious G20. It's an ambitious Chinese leadership."
So the party that speaks endlessly about protecting democracy is not only keeping a candidate who parrots Beijing's political persecution, but is led by a man who wants China to steer the future of global finance. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre didn't hold back.
These comments by this Liberal candidate may well rise to the level of criminal because they called for someone to be turned over to a hostile foreign government on a bounty, a government that wants to kill this Canadian citizen.
Poilievre, who spoke directly to Tay, said the Conservative candidate is extremely afraid and rattled, adding,
"I have never in my life seen a prime minister unwilling to protect a Canadian citizen against a foreign government that wants to take his life through a bounty."
Poilievre also raised concerns about Carney's financial ties to China.
"It shows that Carney is more interested in pleasing Beijing because they lent him $250 million for his company. He is compromised."
Regardless of Carney's business entanglements, one thing is clear. The Liberal Party is unwilling to take a stand against Chinese interference, even when it threatens the safety of Canadian citizens. Chiang's remarks don't just cross ethical lines, they may cross legal ones too. Multiple sections of Canada's criminal code could apply to what he said. Section 46(4)(a), counseling someone to commit an indictable offense, even if it isn't committed, is itself a crime. Section 46(5)(1)(c), conspiring with anyone to commit an indictable offense is an indictable offense. Section 423.1, using threats or intimidation to influence a member of parliament is a criminal act. Beyond criminal law, CSIS in the RCMP's Integrated National Security Enforcement Teams, or INSET, may consider this a matter of foreign interference, espionage, or state coercion. Under Bill C-59, facilitating the interests of a hostile state, especially when involving threats against Canadian citizens, may trigger national security investigations. None of this should be surprising to anyone familiar with Canada's track record on Chinese interference. While the RCMP says it's looking into Chiang's remarks, Canadians have every right to be skeptical. Our justice system has shown the same reluctance as the Liberal Party to confront foreign influence, hesitant, compromised, and seemingly more concerned with optics than accountability. The Cullen Commission, launched by BC's NDP government in 2020, was framed as a bold initiative to tackle money laundering. But despite hearing from 199 witnesses and showcasing bags of dirty cash being hauled into casinos, the Commission downplayed the CCP's role in facilitating the entire network. It presented a public narrative of localized crime, ignoring how Chinese state-backed triads, drug traffickers, and underground banks were flooding BC with illicit money and fentanyl. Behind closed doors, everyone knew the truth. China's unholy trinity of gangsters, government officials, and business elites had infiltrated Canada. Even worse, the commission gave Paul King Jin, a known triad associate and central figure in Canada's largest money laundering case, the power to question witnesses. Jin had allegedly laundered over $220 million a year through Silver International and was linked to organized crime, prostitution, and human trafficking. He was tied to the People's Liberation Army, and yet he was given a voice in a public inquiry. This same figure ran a private gym in Richmond, BC, where Canadian politicians, federal MPs, and provincial ministers attended events alongside CCP officials. Whether knowingly or not, they were used as photo ops for Chinese state propaganda. The e-pirate investigation, which exposed the scale of this operation, collapsed after the name of a confidential source was mysteriously linked. Some insiders say this was no accident, it was sabotage. Chiang's remarks, Carney's softness, the RCMP's silence, and the Commission's failures aren't isolated incidents. They are a pattern of elite capture, a pattern of institutional cowardice, a pattern of prioritizing foreign interests over Canadian safety. We're past the point of naivety. This is not just political negligence, it's complicity. And if Canadians don't wake up soon, they won't be living in the 51st American state, they'll be living in China's 24th province.